Hey guys, how is everyone doing? Hopefully you guys had a great start to your week. I had a very rough Monday, not in the bad sense, rather in the good sense. There was a lot of good news and we had a delivery that the client really liked, so but it was a lot of work. Right now it's almost 9 p.m. here and I've been in the studio pretty much the whole day, almost 12 hours here. But yeah, it's part of the job. It's part of being an entrepreneur, and I'm gonna be here a while because after this video, I'm gonna be working on the next course that I'm gonna be releasing really soon. It's gonna be an amazing course. It's probably, and I don't want to overhype it, but it's probably one of my favorite courses this year. I've done several that I'm really fond of, like the 3D printing one, and which one other was, like, the Zbrush one was really good. The cinematic one was really good. So I've done several this past month that I really liked, but this one, I think this is going to be one of the top of the year. And for those of you that want to check some of the ones that I just mentioned, remember we do have the Skillshare promo. Let's take a look.
Hey guys, Abraham here. I just wanted to remind you guys that we upload all of our courses to Skillshare. Skillshare is this amazing site where you can access a ton of different content to learn, improve, and grow as an artist. We have all of our courses available to watch and learn from right now in Skillshare. You can check the description down here, and Skillshare is offering 1 free month trial to their premium membership. With this membership, you're going to be able to access all of our courses and watch and learn all of the amazing things that we cover with all of the softwares. So, what are you waiting for? Check Skillshare down here below.
There we go. So yeah, you can check Skillshare if you want to learn some of the about my other courses. But today we're going to be focusing on the head. There were a lot of really cool comments yesterday. I'm really happy. Thank you guys. The feedback's always good, and there were a lot of very cool topics that people were suggesting. So we are going to be taking a look on those in the next couple of days. But today I want to continue with this one. I was actually about to be to work on the sword on the weapon design. We're going to do that tomorrow. If for those of you that are unaware. Earlier today, October 3rd, they released the newest Black Panther 2 trailer. I know a lot of people don't like to see trailers nowadays because they spoil quite a bit of the story, but this one seems to be fair. Like, there's not a lot of story, and the one thing that they definitely, I'm gonna, just small spoiler, but they do confirm that the main villain, Namor, from the comics, who was originally from Atlantis, he's now going to be like completely based on the Mexican culture, in the Mayan culture, and they even mention one of the names of a mythological god, which is Kukulkan, which is the winged serpent. So I was really hyped by that. It's really cool to see representation, to be honest, and the weapon that I designed has a lot of like Mexican culture stuff, right? So tomorrow we're gonna continue. We're gonna do something similar. It could. I guess it could like potentially fit on that movie since they're going that way. But anyway, let's focus on the head right now. And this is what we have right now. As you can see, again, it's very common that you work on an area like what we did last week, which is the lips, and they look okay, right? But when you see the whole thing, something just doesn't add up, right? Like, doesn't look as pretty or doesn't look as good. That's the kind of stuff that we're gonna have to fix here. Now, one problem that I am seeing right here is that it seems that what's the word? It seems like I combine this polymesh right here, and as you can see, the eyes are now a single piece. Good thing is we have the polygroup, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna invert the selection here, and I'm gonna say delete hidden, and then Dynamesh, so that we close the eyes pretty much. We're gonna have to bring them back, so very quickly I'm gonna go here to append, and we're gonna do a C-sphere, or sphere. Grab this guy, just scale this down. Let's get it to a like normal size, right about there, I would say, to start. Usually when I go for characters, if I want them to be a little bit more realistic, I'm gonna go for smaller eyes, and if you want them to be a little bit like wider or more cartoony, you can go for wider eyes. Eyes are one of those really tricky things, right? Faces in general are, of course, really tricky. It's not super easy to sculpt a nice face, and what we need to understand is we need to, of course, look for a reference. And I remember one of the issues that I have with eyes is that there's so many different types of eyes. I'm gonna be mentioning a couple of actresses that I find are really pretty. For instance, Anya Taylor-Joy, you know her from Queen's Gambit. She's really pretty in a kind of weird way, right? Because she doesn't have like the traditional Hollywood look, and if you look at her face, the proportions are completely off of what we would normally consider a canonically like good face, if you wish. If you take a look, for instance, Marilyn Monroe, right, like super famous actress, she has the canonical like face. She has like this strong square face, like full features, you know, like it's not super skinny or anything like that. So that's kind of the canonical face that we've been seeing in Hollywood for the past like 50 years. But in the last couple of years, I've seen a lot of actresses with really unique looks. So she's one of those that has a really interesting look, right? And then, of course, you have the traditional ones. We mentioned them on the last video, for instance, Angelina Jolie, right? I think she has this sort of like femme fatale look, a lot skinnier on the face, sharper features. Again, a different kind of beauty, if you wish. There's, of course, Wonder Woman, what's her name? Gal Gadot, right? So Gal Gadot, another a different kind of profile, a different kind of face, and we can spend all day looking at the actresses and analyzing the eyes and everything. But my best advice is select one that you think matches or goes well with the kind of character that you want to do. Not necessarily because you're going to do a likeness, but just because you like the general like shape of the face and stuff like that. I'm going to go with Rachel McAdams because I think is this the October 3rd. I'm doing this, I think, subconsciously because I saw a couple of memes. But yeah, today, like at the time of this recording, is October 3rd, and it's a Mean Girls meme of it's October 3rd, right? So yeah, Rachel McAdams. So if you take a look at her eyes have this very traditional, like straight look. Some eyes go down a little bit on the outside, some eyes go down on the inside. There's a couple of different changes here and there, but she has this very like super traditional, I would say, canonical eyes. Now, when you take a look at the eyes, as you can see here, there's going to be a cavity right by the side of the nose. So I'm going to go right here. And this is one of the things a lot of people miss. Right here, we're going to have a cavity. I'm going to change this to a round alpha so we get like a softer effect. And usually, again, right here, we're going to have a cavity. We can exaggerate or soften that cavity as much or as less or as little as we want, depending on the kind of effect that we're going for. As you can see, I'm using the trim dynamic here to polish that stuff a little bit. And super, super important, there's always going to be a separation from where the nose is to where the cheekbones start. So you can actually touch, I would suggest you do this at the same time I'm doing, that way I'm not making a fool out of myself. But if you go here, you can actually touch at this area right here, and it's really hard. That's bone, right? So, but from here to the top of the nose, there's a little bit of a ridge. That's the nose that's pushing forward, right? So that's the kind of stuff that we want. We want to have that sort of like line right there, that's sort of like a ridge. And again, some people have this a little bit more prominent, some have a little bit less prominent. I'm gonna curve the nose there a little bit. And now, since we're actually working, or since we're now working on the eyes, and we already have a mouth that looks okay, a nose that looks okay, it is a good idea to have most of the stuff showing so that we can tweak things on the upper side and on the lower side. Going back to the eyes, you're gonna see that the eye, and that's why I opened Krita. There we go. The eye has a very interesting feature. A lot of people, when they draw eyes, for instance, they think that you have like the eyeball and you have like the upper eyelid and the lower eyelid. But in reality, it's more like this. You're gonna have the eyeball, and then you're gonna have the upper eyelid like this, and the lower eyelid like this. So as you can see, the like corners of the eyelids, they don't match. They're not exactly in line. They're slightly shifted, and that's important to create a realistic looking eye. Usually, the inner part of the upper eyelid is going to be raised up a little bit more, and the lower part or the outer part of the lower eyelid is going to be raised again a little bit more. You can see it right here. That the apex of the eye is right around here. Actually, it's a great picture to show the eye. There we go. So when we take a look again at the eye here, it's a really low res picture, but we can pretty much draw this, and as you can see, create this sort of like simplistic looking shape. Okay, so it's 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, and that sort of like breaking of the planes on the eye, that's one of the things that's going to give us a really, really nice realistic look. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to start adding the volume here for the upper eyelid. So that's 1, 2, and then 3 going over here. And the other one's going to be 1, 2, and then 3 going over here. There we go. On the inner side, we have the tear duct. It's very important. It's this one right here. And it's an interesting one because the tear duct is actually like a small little cavity here, right? And both eyelids, they kind of like fade into that tear duct like this. So as you can see, I just carved in the little element right there, and there we go. And usually, you can see it right here. Usually, we're gonna see a little bit of like, I'm not sure, connective tissue or something. It's like this soft, pinkish, like flesh thingy right around there. I do think my eyes right now are a little bit small, so I'm gonna make them a little bit bigger, push them forward in. Of course, having the eyes as a different subtool is really important because, you know, in ZBrush, when you do that, when you have a different subtool, things mask each other out, so they help. It's easier to sculpt around the shape of the eye. When you see the eye from the side, this is very important, but when you see the eye from the side, it's important that we do see like this sort of triangular shape. A lot of people bring this corner of the eye really, really far out, and in a very similar fashion to the mouth, when you see the eye from below, you should see this sort of like a round face or round shape. Now, again, going back to the reference, you're gonna see that on the inside right here, we're gonna have a concave thing. We're gonna be pushing in, and on the outside, we're gonna have a convex thing pushing out. Very, very common. I've recommended this book before. There's this book called Anatomy for Sculptors. It's a great visual reference. They don't explain things, like there's no like theory or text. It's just pictures, but they're really good pictures, and you can get the idea of what they mean very, very easily. So as you can see how by like removing some of the volume here, we're giving more depth to the eye and more realism. And the trick here is that this thing fades or changes and becomes the convex thing, the volume pushing out on this side right here. And this volume that we see right here, it's part of the Orbicularis oculi, which is the muscle that goes around the eyes like that. So see how nice that looks. Now let me isolate this because I don't wanna be focusing on other parts for now. Just wanna be focusing on the eyes. And there we go. Now there's usually gonna be a fold. You can see it on this side right here. There's usually gonna be a fold coming specifically from that line. So it's very important that we go here with dimming standard and we create the fold for the eyelid. So this is the fold that would eventually, like if we were to close the eye, the eyelid would go in a round way, right? It doesn't go up and down like a blind. It goes in a round way around the eye, and that's what we would see on this specific area. So we can soften that up, and there we go. So now that we have this shape, another important thing is, and you can also see it here, the sharpness, right? Like we need to keep or to hold an edge in this area right here. So we should be able to see pretty much a 90-degree edge. I encourage you guys to go to a mirror. Usually in the bathrooms, right, we have mirrors. So I encourage you guys to go to a mirror and look at the border of your eyelids. You're gonna see they're pretty much like really sharp, to be honest. Really, really sharp. So I'm gonna sharpen them up right here. There we go. Now, there's a very important wrinkle. I love this wrinkle. It's super easy to add, and it immediately makes your characters look like 10 times better. This one right here. I don't know what the exact name of that one is. I know this is the nasolabial fold. We've mentioned it before. It's a super common wrinkle, but there's this wrinkle right here. You can see it's very soft, and again, usually in our times and days, a lot of actors and actresses, they wear a lot of makeup and they wear a lot of things to erase those wrinkles, but they're very, very common. I'm not even sure if you can see them on my face. Let me see. I hate taking out my glass. I can't see, but maybe you might be able to see like this line right around there. And it pretty much, as you can see, divides or compartmentalizes the face. And it's a really, really important one because, again, as soon as you add it or just indicate it, you don't even need to like create a super intense one. As long as you just indicate that it's there, it makes the face flow so much better. Another thing I like to do is I like to fill this up with a little bit more skin and fat folds. All of this guys right here. And we can blend in with the nose a little bit so it's not like a perfectly like straight line. And there we go. That's what we get. Now, of course, underneath the lower eyelid, we are going to have the eye bags. When you don't sleep for a long time, you get like bigger and bigger eyeballs. eyeballs, eye bags. But there's also some people that have really really big like eye bags as well. It's I guess it has to do with genetics as well. In the Mean Girls movie, one of the other like secondary girls, she's quite famous as well. I'm not sure what's her name. I think her name is Amanda Seyfried. Yeah. So she has done a lot of drama stuff as well, and she has a really really heavy. Her eyes always remind me of like fish eyes, because on certain takes and on certain like movies you can see like a really, look at that, like a really really big eye bag. And of course, the older you get, the more elasticity your skin loses, the more you're gonna see this sort of effect happening. Oh my god, sorry guys, sorry sorry, my bad, I forgot to switch back to this one right here. So this is the line that I was mentioning, this line right here, and this is the actress that I was mentioning, Amanda Seyfried. So yeah. Now, the upper eyelid will go on top of the lower eyelid. That's another very common mistake. The lower eyelid should kind of like hide behind the upper eyelid, and that's where you're gonna get like the famous chicken feet that women get on the side of their faces. We get them as well, of course, but again, usually it's women who are a little bit more concerned about like aging and wrinkles. Not always, but commonly. My wife recently got herself some like vitamin supplements because she feels she's getting older and older. She's 28, but you know. So there we go. Now what we can do, and this is where the clay buildup, I really like the clay buildup as well. We can just very very softly go on top of all of these elements and start like fixing some of the areas that we might not like. Now, the face is looking way, way better. Again, I'm gonna just like hide the like this front part right here. But now that we have like a good primary forms on the lips, on the eyes and everything, now we need to start like building everything up so that it looks a little bit prettier, right? So what can we do here? Well, there's a lot of things that we can do, but what I would say is filling it up is usually a good idea, because right now she kind of looks like a zombie, I would say. Like the factions are really, really like intense. And that's not what we want. So again, if we take a look at Rachel McAdams here, you're gonna see that there's like puffiness pretty much everywhere. A little bit of fat here on the cheeks, a little bit of fat here on the jaws, a little bit of fat here on the chin, and that's kind of what we want to go for. Same for the lips. Like I think the lips, they're not looking as like feminine as I would like. We can maybe add a little bit of smile right there. I think we might be pushing them a little bit too far back, so I'm going to bring them back forward. And I'm going to start just, again, with the clay buildup, adding just more volume in certain areas. For instance, here on the cheeks, we definitely need a little bit of volume here on the cheeks. Just smooth this out. Female faces tend to be really, really soft. It's not common to work on projects where the female faces are going to be like really exaggerated or really old. I'm not saying there are not, but again, we must know that currently the kind of things that people buy and the kind of things that people look for are pretty women. So we as artists, we need to, if we want to make a living, of course, we need to adapt to what the society is asking for. I'm not saying there can't be any other projects. I'm sure, and I've mentioned this before, there's other projects I love, for instance, Overwatch, and how they create a little bit more representation of different body types and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, if you're just learning 3D, I would strongly suggest that you first learn the traditional way to do things, the canonical thing, the thing that people look for the most, and then depart from that. I'm gonna add a little bit of volume here on the eyebrows. It's gonna be important. And one of the things that it's gonna definitely like change the way we appreciate, in this case, the female head, it's eventually gonna be the hair. Let me know in the comments if you would like me to talk a little bit about hair. I wasn't really planning on it. I was thinking about keeping her bald for this case, just like a head study. But if you guys would like to learn a little bit about like hair blocking and a little bit of hair sculpting, I can definitely add that into the repertoire and just like include it here. So as you can see, I'm just doing this sort of like soft, round movements across the areas where I know we would get a little bit more fat and skin. without destroying all of the things that we did before. And now the head is looking a little bit fuller, a little bit nicer. Let's use a little bit of trim dynamic to work on some areas here. Like this line that we have right here, we no longer need. Another thing we could do, since we have this very cool mask, or not the mask, it's a face, but there's one character. I was about to spoil what the next course was gonna be. No, not yet. I'm probably gonna give you guys a sneak peek at the end of the week. But there's one character that I've always wanted to do, which is like a gesture, you know, like from Venice, Italy, Assassin's Creed, that kind of stuff. And they usually wear masks. I was lucky enough to go to Venice when I was younger on a trip. Venice Yester. And they have this very cool masks. I think I got one. There we go. So now that we have the basic shape of the female face, we could do something like this. Like it would be very easy to just transform that base mesh that we have into a mask or a character like this, because we have all of the proper faces and shapes. I would love to do a character like this one day. Maybe we'll do it one day on the stream or here on the channel. But yeah, I mean, as you can see right here, our character's looking better. I'm gonna go back. Remember this little line that I mentioned? It usually goes from the lower eyelid out, and we can just like soften that one up a little bit more. Now that we have things looking a little bit better, we can again focus on the shape of the head. So for instance, we can make her face a little bit slimmer. If the, like, I think this is a little bit too much on the forehead right there. So we can change that as well. If the mouth is a little bit too like far out or too or not enough, you can definitely change that. I think there's a lot of wrinkles here. I don't love this, so I'm gonna just fill in a little bit of those lines. The more intense your wrinkles are, the older your character is gonna look, and that's also another one of the tricky things to do. I think one of the hardest characters that I ever had to do was a little kid, a female kid. She was supposed to be like 14 or 15. Oh my god, like that was like days and days of refining and refining until we found like the perfect proportions and the perfect shape, because it was so subtle. Like the things that you had to do were so subtle, and it was definitely tricky to do. Now, as you can see right here, it's another important one. Using a sphere is great, right? Because spheres, like our eyes are pretty much spherical. They're not perfectly spherical, but they're pretty much spherical. But the problem with the spheres is that when we do the spheres, we tend to leave too much showing. And as you can see, it's pretty much just this small little window right here on the sphere. And you can see my face right here is showing way too much eye. So what I'm gonna do is with the move brush, I'm gonna start bringing this up and closing this, but we need to be very careful about the distance here, about where the inner and the outer like edges of our character are, because as you can see, when I start bringing this down, it kind of looks like she's tired, like she's sleepy, right? And we don't want that. We want her to look like just like a normal, like a base pose or basic pose. So we need to be very careful about where the middle points of our eyes are. I'm pushing the head or the face forward there a little bit. I think here we can push this a little bit back. Let's take a look at the neck. I hate the ears. I hate them. They look really wrong. So I'm gonna start just like fixing them slightly. Just gonna carve in a little bit here. And this thing is what I hate the most. So with my Demian standard, I'm just gonna like cut in there. Because when I see it from the front, I wanna see like the separation from the ears and the head. Like the sort of like changing silhouette, there we go. So that I can also evaluate the proportions, because I do feel like the proportions are a little bit off. Now here's where another excellent thing that we can do, is one of the things that I do love about ZBrush, is that we can look for female face side, right? And we look for the proportions of a side view. We're not gonna match them like exactly. We just need to find a face like this one right here. Looks pretty enough. I'm gonna go copy. Here, paste. What the hell is this? There we go. And now if we go to ZBrush, we can turn on the see-through thing. And the main thing I want to check is the proportion. So if I match the position of like the chin, as you can see, I'm trying to see if my proportion in general is like where it's supposed to be, and we're not that far off. If we want to match her profile perfectly, then yeah, we would definitely need to change a couple of things. But at least like I can see where my curvature might be a little bit too exaggerated. It might have been looking a little bit too cartoonish. And we can just like fix it up a little bit right there. Now make sure to see whether or not that works or not, because for instance, you can see here, it looks better, I would say, but now the eyes are wrong, so we need to push the eyes back. It looks a little bit more proportional. I do think it looks a little bit too long now. So again, we're gonna have to go here, grab a remove brush, and maybe just like bring her back there. And again, it's all about tweaking. If I feel like this part right here is a little bit too much, we can reduce it. So I'm gonna use my trim dynamic. Usually when you see it from like 3/4 views, you should see a little bit of like a, there we go, like a window. It's like this sort of like shape. And then the cheekbone, it usually pushes out a little bit more. My best advice, if you guys are gonna try this exercise, gather as much reference as you can. Trying to work on the likeness is also really good because people are gonna immediately tell you whether or not it's like you did right or wrong. And the problem with likenesses is that you can get to a point where people will see your work and they're like, oh yeah, that's whatever X or Y actress or actor. But it looks off, right? It looks like, it doesn't look photorealistic. We do have a course, it's one of our best-selling courses, I think, which is the one with Anthony Hopkins. So throughout the course, the instructor will take you through the process of creating the head of Anthony Hopkins, and he shares a lot of stuff about likeness. I don't do a lot of likenesses. It's not something that I get hired to do as much. I usually get a concept piece, and usually they're, I would say, quite generic. It's nothing like super special. And again, the important thing is, as long as you can match it, you're gonna be in a good situation. Matching a concept is usually a little bit easier, I would say, than trying to come up with a character from scratch. Like this face that I'm doing right now. It's just like trying to apply all of the rules and things that I know about female anatomy to create a character. But we're not gonna know whether or not we're successful until we show this to people. You guys are gonna be the first judges on the comments. You're gonna let me know if this is looking good or not. But I would say for 25 minutes of work, it's not bad. That's one of the main challenges. I've mentioned this before, but it's impossible for me to show you the whole process on YouTube videos. I mean, I can do it, of course, but it will take us like a full month. Imagine like a full month of 1 hour videos. Because it usually takes a little bit longer to do this kind of characters. It's not something that you do on a whim, right? There's, of course, a lot of very talented artists that can quick sculpt things very, very fast and very nicely. But usually in production, you're going to have way more time. Here, I'm just like tweaking a couple of like anatomy things to make the proportions of the neck look a little bit better. Because I think the head is looking a little bit big for the neck. The neck was looking a little bit too soft. Or too small, I would say, too thin. That's it. Not bad, I would say. Not bad for a primary form of the head. The more time we spend on this, the more time we're going to be able to refine. So yeah, let me know. Should we do a hair and try to finalize like a portrait sculpting or something, or should we convert this into a Venice mask? That might be a cool project, I would say. We can extract this and convert it into a very, very cool Venice mask, like a prop that you would find in the game. I think both options are really cool. Let me know in the comments what you guys want. And thank you for all of you guys who have been watching this video for the past 30 minutes, almost 30 minutes, 29 minutes. I know it's a long time commitment. I know some of you might be hearing me in the background. Hey, I'm here, I'm still working. But yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for the support. We recently reached 29,000 subscribers, and I was looking at the numbers yesterday. I think we're now at 29,300 subscribers, something like that. So we might be able to get to, as I mentioned, 30K very, very soon. So that would be great. The channel has been growing a lot. Remember that if you comment, you have the chance of winning the Fan of the Month award, which is gonna give you a free course. So yeah, make sure to participate. We're a small community, so the chances of you winning are quite big, I would say. And I think that's it for now, guys. I think I'm gonna stop right here. And as I mentioned, we can keep tweaking this for a long time, but I really like where this is going. I think the primary shapes are looking quite nice. I'm getting this very fine art vibe of it, like very traditional sculpting thing. I'm adding a little bit. I can't stop. I can't stop. I just wanna keep polishing, keep playing with this. Let's do a couple more minutes, shall we? Since we're already here. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more volume here underneath the lips. And I really like this kind of like clay texture we're getting everywhere. It makes it look very, again, very fine artsy. When I was in school doing traditional sculpting, I miss doing traditional sculpting. But when I was doing it, you would usually like leave some of the tool marks on the sculpting. And I always found that sort of style to be really, really cool. There's a very famous sculptor by the name of Rodin. You can look him. I think it's pronounced Rodin, but it's written Rodin, R-O-D-I-N. He has the guy that's like thinking like this, and his sculpture is very crude. It's very raw, right? So he wouldn't like polish things to perfection. He would just like leave his fingerprints there and the marks and everything. My sculpting teacher, he was a really big fan of Rodin. And he passed at least one of the things that I kind of like inherited from him was that like I really like that style. I have other friends that like to like really polish stuff. I've always liked the sort of like sketchy, like kind of like unfinished type products. I don't know. It looks more intense, if you wish. But there we go. Oh yeah, there was one more thing I was gonna do. I'm gonna go to the eyes real quick. So here. A very traditional way to do eyes. I'm gonna dynamesh them at a really high resolution, and we're gonna carve in right there, and then you're gonna fill in, and you can get that. It kind of looks a little bit cross-eyed, so let me try that again. So it's like that, and then you add like the little. I'm actually gonna like remove symmetry so that's both on this side. No, that looks even worse. That's one way to do it. You can, of course, download. There's a couple of eyes out there that you can download. I do think the eyes are a little bit big, though. Soften them up. There we go. Definitely need to go here and push the remaining of the eye in. I think the change that we did on the eyebrows definitely made her look like tired. There we go. It looks a little bit better. Let's go back to the eyes, or what we have here on the eyes. I'm just gonna push them forward to recover some of that sort of like a roundness shape. Then again, it doesn't have to be perfect because eyes are not perfect. I'm not sure if you guys have seen. Sorry. People who unfortunately lose an eye and they get like a prosthesis. If you see the prostheses, they're not completely round. They're like just like oblong shapes. They're really, really interesting, and that's one of the things that. There we go. That's a little bit better. I think I'm just gonna keep it like that and just push it there. I always hate doing eyes inside of Zbrush, to be honest, like the actual eyeballs, because they always look wrong. So most of the times I'll just leave my characters with like blank eyes, to be honest, and I'll add the proper eyes later. I'm just gonna go here and again just play around with the shapes a little bit so that you have the proper like roundness, and there we go. So yeah, 30 minutes, 34 minutes. Thank you guys for sticking around, and hopefully all of this information that I'm showing and this process is helpful to you. Remember, we have our portfolio review at the end of the month, so make sure to tune in and submit your stuff if you want me to review it. And that's it. Tomorrow we'll do the weapon. Hang on tight. I'll see you back on the next one. Bye-bye.